against I Read Minds on Big Combre. Now, keep in mind that I Read Minds is still in the winners bracket, and Loco Pojo is coming from the lower bracket. So Loco Pojo must win 2 best of 5 matches to become the invitational champion. So if this first best of 5 is won by Pojo, we are going to begin a new best of 5.
Yeah, we will play an immediate next best of 5 unless one of the players needs a break. So there will not be a break like there has been for the rest of the matches. Since both players are already on the stream, we will immediately jump into a second best of 5.
Yeah, so before we get into the meat of it here, Bears, who do you like in this match?
Well, so I gotta say I'm more likely to take I Read Minds here. Not necessarily because I think the matchup is like greatly in his favor, but because we already did see him take down Pojo just 2 games ago. He did go 3-1 over Pojo, and Pojo has to come back from that twice. Like it's not like it's just one series. Like with Pojo having to do it twice, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold out. I mean, I Read Minds has a very strong and what could be described as greedy Combri list, and that actually is probably going to come in handy here. Like having those Mystic Ascendants give him the ability to play this like very late game style that it works out pretty well against Pojo. But
Yeah, Pojo having the Stone Scar Mauls instead of Obliterates game 1 definitely favors the big combo deck more, but it just seems to me like Pojo should have an advantage post sideboard that didn't play out. Like I Read Minds is able to use all of his silence effects at the perfect times to negate a lot of the abilities of Pojo's units. He was able to find combo healers when he needed to, protects when he needed to, and just always stay one step ahead of Pojo's deck.
Yeah, very true. Those silences are key. And right off the bat, we already see double Valkyrie Enforcer in I Read Mind's hand. And that could be very useful for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the first one is going to turn Pojo's Champion of Chaos into just a 3-3, which, while not the worst, is much worse than the frankly absurd normal stat line of a 4-4 Overwhelm Deadly.
Yeah, and he's considering what he wants to do here. Deciding if he wants to suffocate or if he's going to fire off the Varus favor into that. You have to imagine the Varus favor, although it is better against... Well, it's not really better against anything. I'd probably just get it.
Yeah, it's a big combo deck. It's not a Shimmer Pack deck. You're not really looking at very many targets for Varus favor. So I think just firing it off as soon as you can get any value out of it is correct.
Yeah, very true. Interesting that we do see Temple Scribe in the big Combri decks, not because it is big itself, but just because it allows you to cycle cards.
Yeah, you gain a health, you get a chump blocker. You need to get to those fatties at the 4, 5, 6 curve somehow.
Yeah, very true. And we see Pojo with that Subvert in hand. Not going to fire it off this turn, but that could prove to be quite useful in the coming turns. If this Great Parliament doesn't get cast for a while, it could just get stolen from I Read Mind's hand.
Yeah, so we talked about earlier, the big combo deck likes to keep extra power in its hands at all times. So the Subvert is much worse than it usually is, especially much worse than it usually is against slow mid-range decks.
Yeah, this is very true. And yeah, interesting. We're going to see I Read Minds go ahead and get that Parliament down right out of the gate and try and put a lot of pressure on Pojo.
Yeah, so I guess Pojo's going to answer with this Umbrn Reaper, and that's going to get silenced by Valkyrie Enforcer. But the 5-1 will still be able to trade with the Flyer from I Read Minds.
Well, it would get trade with the Flyer if it still had flying, but...
Well, I just mean it's going to attack as a 5-1, and, like, you can't afford to just take 5.
Yeah, this is true. Like, he probably can't just afford to take the 5, although he's not going to get a choice, at least for this turn. He is going to get 8 to his face. And Pojo has a very real possibility. Ooh, Subvert, let's see what it hits. Ooh! Mystic Ascendant straight pulled from his hand. That puts I Read Minds in a very peculiar situation. All he has left is Harsh Rule now.
Loco Pojo throws out the "I'm the big combrain now."
Yeah. That was pretty great, and we are going to see him push in. And wow, yeah, Loco is going to bring this first game to a close very quickly. We see the Harsh Rule fire off.
The Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, he's not even going to actually get to play as Mystic Ascendant and outvalue I Read Minds. He simply needed to take it from him so that he couldn't establish anything on board. Getting in there with the second Stone Scar Maul and closing out what is a very quick game one for him.
Yeah, I feel like most of the games that Pojo wins are going to be very quick because if it goes late, then that means that I Read Minds got Mystic Ascendants, got Martial Iron Thorns, and just started accruing insane value.
Yeah, really. So we're going to get into these players' sideboard. I think at least I Read Minds here already has his sideboard pulled up from when he played Loco earlier. And Loco's going to go ahead and quick make a copy, take a look, see if there are any things he wants to leave in or cut out of his original sideboard plan. And I see him notably bring in the Soulfire Drake, the extra Smuggler Stash. Yeah, basically just trying to up his amount of late game pressure. That way he can go toe-to-toe in the end game with the big Combri deck, which is a problem that a lot of decks can't actually deal with. It's very hard to keep up with these big Combri decks the farther and farther it gets into the game.
Yeah, Pojo is going with this. He's continuing his strategy of just presenting too many silence demanding targets for them all to get silenced.
Yeah, very true. He is just going to overload on the silences. I like all these Char Chain Flails in. Bringing in some Annihilates to try and answer the Mystic Ascendants, the Martial Iron Thorns, even the Great Parliament. It's very interesting. The Great Parliament is a multi-faction card, but the owls it produces are only a single faction. Like, they're only Justice.
Yeah, they are vulnerable to Annihilate, although sometimes they come in pairs, so Annihilate isn't a great answer.
Yeah, not often a great answer for them, but it is notable that it can at least be an answer. That game, for example, we saw I Read Minds just getting the single owl out, trying to put a little bit of pressure on. Unfortunately, was not quite enough for him. So I think the players are about to get into this next game right here.
Yeah, I think that Loco's sideboard jukes continue to work. When we saw I Read Minds post sideboard deck here, didn't have any decays, and Loco Pojo, after originally taking all the relic weapons out, has put relic weapons and Smuggler Stash back in for this series.
Yeah, has put the Smuggler Stash back in, trying to get a lot of that late game value. Early hands, I Read Minds not with a lot of interaction, but with a lot of power seeking. So he's going to need to pick up some threats here. Pojo, on the other hand, though, a lot of these stewards and a Champion of Chaos early on.
Just a pile of deadly units in Loco Pojo's hand.
Yeah, notably for I Read Minds, I guess he's not too sad about these depleted power over the next few turns, since he really isn't ramping into much current. Just taking
he has
time.
so much power that if a few of them are depleted, it doesn't affect him a whole lot.
No, not particularly. And we are going to see him go ahead and drop this Combri Healer down to try and put a threat out and start pressuring his opponent. And Pojo just getting the Champion of Chaos down. Unfortunately, he's a little baby Champion of Chaos. He's not.
Well, actually, fortunately here, it can't even get vanquished. At least not this turn.
Yeah, true. It can't get vanquished quite yet. So this was fortunate for him, though we are going to see it die this turn. At least he got the banner so he could get in with it and actually get the 5 through. I think he would have gotten in 4 anyway, since it would have had Death Touch regardless.
Yeah, that's just a really smart little play by Pojo. Like, normally you don't want to play it at 3 if your opponent has... you don't want to play it as a 3/3 before you get 3 influence. If your opponent is playing Shadow or Fire, because it can get torched or suffocated. But against the Time Justice deck, it's actually nothing but upside, because that just means it can't get vanquished before it gets a chance to attack.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And we do see...
Yeah, Pojo's Subvert, unfortunately, just hits a depleted Justice Sigil.
Yeah, not finding much there. Truthfully, though, there wasn't a lot there to pick up. He had like a 2 and 5, and then Vanquish is good, but not great. He was really hoping to fish that Mystic Ascendant out.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know, but I Read Mind's hand is pretty, at that point, pretty lacking in good cards to steal.
Yeah, pretty lacking. I definitely like if Pojo... I want Pojo to put that second Steward of the Past here. I think he needs to start pressuring.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's thinking. Like, if he's afraid of Harsh Rule, that's fine, but he isn't beating the board currently.
No, he's not currently. This turn, he will be able to suffocate away the Combri Healer, though, and get the Steward down. Electing to actually get the Champion of Chaos down instead.
He's just playing so passively and defensively here. Like now this champion is going to get vanquished and he's going to get bashed for 8
Yeah, he's gonna get
or
well
10 even.
actually yeah, 10's gonna come in, putting him 14, and he did hold the suffocate for the Seraph, so that's good. But at the same time, it's like he's still got to find answers here. The Stewards will hold down the Mystic Ascendant and the Combri Healer, but I don't know if Irene Mines is too upset about that if the Mystic Ascendant can't swing quite yet. Just going to take his time to power it up.
Yeah, you just kind of see the squeeze that Harsh Rule puts. Not even like even if Irie Mines didn't have it in his hand, just by having it in his deck, Loco Pojo was forced to play a lot differently against Harsh Rule.
Yeah, and we see a Valkyrie Enforcer getting picked up, and that's going to silence this Steward. And here resumes the beatdown. And Loco Pojo just saying, good game, my friend, already realizing that this matchup is over. There is not going to be much he can do. His one out there was to get a subvert onto his Harsh Rule, but even then he would have been lacking 1 power, unfortunately. So that will just be it.
Yeah, just a very quick game. Pojo a little hesitant to commit to the board because of the possibility of Harsh Rule, and then Irie Mines just slammed Mystic Ascendants and crushed him.
Yeah, I wonder what I read is here. Like, I guess he's trying to play out and see if he finds like removal or something that he can take care of it with. But he's very comfortable to just ace space here.
Yep, and so we're going to be moving into game 3 here with the series tied up 1-1.
Yeah, we will be moving into game 3. So 1 apiece. I think this is how it started off last time, unless I'm mistaken. We did see these players play earlier in the winners bracket in a best of 5. So now that we have all the sideboard again from the last time, Pojo throwing a little joke out here.
Dropping the Mystic Ascendant puns.
Yeah, well, it was actually a pun on the game, the card game for those who are familiar with it, Ascension. And he was playing all the Temple Scribes, and the Scribes are often cards that cycle cards, and he kind of just saw him over there having a little bit of fun cycling around. But we are hopefully going to see. Yeah, they're taking a quick look at their decks, but I think at this point both players have more or less explored the extent of how they want to sideboard in the matchup. Kind of just like checking over a couple things, thinking a little bit harder about it. But for the most part, I think both players have their game plans all hammered out. So they're going to jump back into it and see who can come out on top in this third game.
Yeah, and this is a very important one. Whoever wins this has all the momentum, and the loser needs to win 2 in a row, which is tough in the best of circumstances, and especially tough against a player that you know is very good in the finals of a tournament.
Yeah, very true. And let's see. Ooh, Pojo with an interesting hand here. He's actually got a decent bit of early aggression. And I read minds as well with a lot of like 2 and 3 drops here.
Yeah, Loco keeps this hand. It's very power light. He needs to hit uh, like 4 power in the next 5 or 6 draws in
Yeah.
order for this hand to play out the way he wants it to.
Yeah, he really does. And this is gonna be interesting. Yeah, Pojo lacking some power here, not picking one up there either. So he just gets another instigator down, but they're not exactly doing anything, and these Cumber healers are gonna start just getting in their way. Or actually choosing to get the Valkyrie Enforcer down and silencing one of them off.
Yeah, that ends up a lot worse as that just gets torched, and Pojo is going to end up pushing 9 damage total this turn.
Yeah, he is definitely getting in there. This is some real aggression out of Pojo. Even though he's not picking up any lands, he's already torn off half of Irene Mine's health pool. So we're going to have to see if Irene Mines can recover. He's definitely got a lot of solid cards here.
Another thing about Pojo's deck compared to most Stone Scar midrange and Stone Scar burn decks is that he plays a lot of power sources. Like he only has 25 actual power cards, but he's playing 4 Seek Power and 5 Favors. So he's playing a lot of sources and can generally count on drawing one within the first few turns.
Yeah, and that does help him quite a bit smooth out his power here. And we're going to see if he's going to be able to utilize these champions. Pushing with the 1 champion, interesting.
So
Definitely
like
gonna
just
take.
trades for Giraffe.
Yeah. I guess he scared iReed into not just blocking with two tooth or the 2/5 rather, thinking that maybe there was a Vars favor behind it.
Yeah, both players are missing their fourth power drop for multiple turns here. So, but it looks like I Read Minds actually has a lot more cheaper cards. So if the game stays as it is now, Pojo is going to be in a tough spot once I Read Minds starts playing all these cheap cards.
Yeah, Pojo needs power, but even if he hits a power here, it doesn't actually get him in cards to play.
Yeah, he needs two more to get to Soulfire Drake and three more to get to Stone Scar Maul.
Yeah, he does. And we see iRead Mind's going to go ahead and try and break the board open here a little bit with this Parliament off the top, getting in just the single owl.
Pojo finds a power and is able to Flame Blast that, so we remain at parity for a turn more, with both players stuck at 4 power now.
Yeah, this could get good for Pojo if he can finally get to 5 and 6. But on the other hand, like we have the Desert Marshal to clean up the Drake immediately. And outside of that, like I read Minds' board is pretty solid against Pojo right now.
All right, and Pojo finds his 5th power. They both do, so this is going to be a real game.
Yeah, this is going to be a real game, though we are going to see the Drake try and get in and get shut down by this Desert Marshal. And not looking great with that. We still haven't seen Pojo really needs to pick up a 6th power, and he honestly needs some shadow influence so that he can get the deadly on top of these. And as I say it, he does get one shadow influence, still needs a second one to turn the champions on for their deadly and the +1/+1.
So Pojo is now stocking up his Void. He has a Stone Scar Maul here to put a second weapon in the Void, and I don't know if he has 2 dead units yet or not, but this Smuggler Stash is going to be a huge turning point.
It definitely is, though. Getting both these mauls back is going to create a lot of pressure for him that he otherwise wouldn't have, and he's going to see if he can get this. He's going to see if he can have the Umbran Reaper die before he stashes. That way, he can get it back down. But we see iReed picking up another Desert Marshal.
Yep, and that Desert Marshal is going to be able to trade with this Umbran Reaper, the same as it did with the Soulfire Drake. So that's 2 5-mana flyers from Pojo that have traded for Desert Marshals now.
In a weird way, out of Pojo there, I kind of would have actually liked to have seen him annihilate his own Umbran Reaper to make the effect go off. And then
Yeah.
he could have stashed and gotten it back, because that put iRead Minds at 12, and then he knew he was getting it back with stash, which would put him at 7 if it doesn't get silenced. And then he's got these 2 Stone Scar Mauls. Either way, though, I mean, the Mauls are going to present a lot of damage here.
Yeah, each of the Mauls is going to be able to overwhelm for some damage if you'd like.
Here it
Ooh,
is.
this is actually a pretty brutal Voprex, because there's an Argentport Instigator in play. So this deals 4 right away, and then he gets to attack for 9. So that's a 13 damage burn spell, essentially.
Yeah, and actually, iRead Minds should recognize that and he does. He realizes that he's dead due to the Mauls being in his hand. So that was pretty crazy there. I mean, that was one of the Voprexes we've seen that's actually kind of gone off. And well, we did talk about, like, if you're gonna have a good matchup with Voprex, you're gonna find it against Big Cone Breed. They want to build the board and they want to hold on to cards.
So I'm getting a shout out in the comments here. So how do you feel about Voprex now? You've been quite vocal about your distaste for it all day.
That card is still terrible. He didn't even need Voprex to win. He would have won that game regardless. That
Probably true, but the Voprex won it in style.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. The Voprex did win it in style, but at the same time, it's like, did he win it in style? Not really. But we do see Pojo then going up 2-1 over iRead Minds, jumping straight into our 4th game here. No more time for sideboarding. We know what our game plan.
Yeah, they're both committed at this point. All that's left is to play the games and see who's still left standing when the dust settles.
Yeah, that is all we have left. And Pojo with an interesting hand here has enough power now with that power draw and the Caleb's favor to make sure that he can get the Steward into play. And if he can find one more power, he's gonna, and there it is, one more banner. He's gonna really start cracking by next turn.
So Iron Mines has a silence for each of these 5-cost flyers. But Pojo has a lot of stuff going on. Like he's got these char chain flails, which will be able to use to remove anything from I Read Minds, and he's got this Argentport Instigator to have a threat left over after all the silencing and trading.
Yeah, very true. This is a very interesting hand from I Read Minds. Like he's got these Scorpion Wasps. Like this Scorpion Wasp is going to do a ton of work right here if he just wants to jump it in and let it die. But it actually
I
looks
think
like
he's gonna ambush it in at end of turn and then attack down the char chain flail.
yeah, he might do that on the Marshall, but it seems like he actually wanted to hold it so that he could get the Steward of the Past off, which isn't a bad play. And he gets the Marshall down, though he will be missing that silence come a few turns from now.
Yeah, I don't think Pojo is sad at all to see his char chain flail die to that Desert Marshal. Like it did 5 damage, which he's playing a lot of cards that say deal 5 damage on them. And then that's one fewer silence for this Soulfire Drake and Umbran Reaper.
Yeah, very true. And I think we might have Pojo getting this bracket reset here. It's very possible for I Read Minds to come back, but I mean, we're certainly seeing a really nasty hand out of Pojo. And if he decides to vanquish this 5/5 instead of just silencing it, he's not going to have answers for all of these threats coming up in Pojo's hand.
Oh, he opts to use the Vulcan Enforcer to silence the 5/5, which means he has 0 silences left for this Soulfire Drake and Umbran Reaper.
Yeah, and we do see him getting in with a little bit of damage here, and here it comes. Like here comes the Umbran Reaper, and he does at least have the Scorpion Wasp to answer one and the Vanquish to answer the other. But the key part of this is it's not just about answering the threat; it's about answering the effect that's coming off of it.
Yeah, and I Read Mind's actually not even holding up the Scorpion Wasp, so he's gonna take 5 from the Soulfire Drake here and just be on the brink of death.
Yeah, and he's going to take 3 on the ground too if he's not willing to sacrifice the Desert Marshal. Like he's going to have to sack the Desert Marshal here, and he's still like Champion of Chaos while it is silent, still on the board, and the Soulfire Drake hits for 5. Like I mean, honestly, Pojo could have even considered just dropping the flail there and punching him down to 1. It's a little unnecessary, but
yeah, that flail is gonna be the game here. So Loco Pojo succeeds in getting the bracket reset. So we're gonna have one last best of 5 here for all of the marbles.
yeah, this will be another best of 5. The first game is pre-boarded, so we will go back to their main decks for this first game coming up. So players will be told to go back to their original deck here in just a second, and then we will be getting into our second best of 5 immediately. Players just talking it out for a few seconds. That was a very fast series, though. I mean, I did doubt Pojo, but he really changed my mind there in that series. That first set really didn't look like there was almost any way for I Read Minds to stop him most of those games. It was just kind of running through him.
Yeah, you really can't keep a good Stone Scar deck down. It always finds a way. There's just so many powerful cards.
Yeah, I mean they do just have so much between the Mauls and the Statuary Maidens and the Steward of the Past and the Soulfire Drake and the Flame Blast. I can just keep going on and on. It's like every single card that they play, like the Smuggler Stashes. Like Pojo's playing Smuggler Stash.
Yeah. So actually, here's a fun fact for you, Beatrice. If Loco Pojo does manage to take another set and complete his full comeback here, Voprex the Great Ruin will have more tournament victories than Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, that is well, we just won't talk about it. That's not the impact of those two cards is very, very different. I'll put it that way. The contribution that the Voprex made to the win was it's unimportant. You know, it's like on a sports team when like the bench players get a ring for winning the championship too, even though they didn't do anything. Like that's how Voprex feels to me. Like he didn't actually show up. He just rides the bench the whole time.
Voprex is the backup extra point place kick holder.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's there just holding the ball. Not involved though. Nobody really needs him.
All right, so getting to the game at hand, Loco Pojo going first has a turn 2 Argenport Instigator, but I Read Minds is going to be able to stuff that with a Knight Chancellor Seraph that Loco Pojo doesn't have a removal spell for right now. So do we just see the raw Subvert with no information on your opponent's hand?
I kind of liked it there, but I also like it because like I have superpowers. I get to see I Read Mind's hand, and I know that was a good subvert. But from Loco's perspective, nah, I feel like he made the right call doing it, and he does have the ability to obliterate the Sandstorm Titan that I Read Minds just played, so that kind of helps set the board back a little bit for him.
Yeah, and he's going to have a Stone Scar Maul to take out a Seraph next turn.
Yeah, and he's gonna start to being able to like bully Pojo around with this Seraph a little bit, since Pojo's gonna have to 2-for-1 just to get it off.
Yeah, I think Pojo's more interested in just racing here. Ooh, Vara's Favor plus Torch actually takes out the Seraph at no card disadvantage.
Yeah, that is very true. So that will
So this
help.
allows Pojo to push in and drop I Read Minds to 17, which is still far out of range of his burn spells, but it's not like I Read Minds is super far ahead on the board or anything.
Yeah, I Read Minds picking up that Valkyrie Enforcer. If he hadn't picked that up, I felt like he was going to fire up Parliament here. But to be honest, I think he still might anyway. He might just value getting that 4/4 flyer down.
Yeah, the 4/4 is quite good here. I think that is a solid play.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of his hand just isn't particularly attractive in this situation. So he's going to get that down, and we're going to see the Stone Scar Maul that come down to clean it up, get a decent little bit of damage on I Read Minds, and all of a sudden he's down to 11. He finds himself in a very interesting situation.
Pojo able to take out the Owl from Great Parliament instead of Seraph there because he drew a Charchain Flail, so he still has another removal spell
Oh man,
for the Seraph in case I Read Minds draws a 7th power.
Are you ready? Are you ready for the subvert here?
Subvert Harsh Rule?
Or subvert a Martial Ironthorn? Take your pick. Either is actually pretty good here. And Harsh Rule, weirdly enough, actually favors Pojo, since it will clear the board up for this Charchain Flail to start beating through.
Let's see. And he does take the Harsh Rule.
Yeah, gets that Harsh Rule off. And oh, wow, actually interesting. Pojo choosing to go ahead and just clear another unit off the board with that flail.
Yeah, so he saw I Read Minds miss his power drop last turn, so he knows that it's still going to be several turns before that Seraph can start activating.
Yeah, also not very concerned with the Seraph. He should be anymore with that Harsh Rule floating around. Like, if the board ever gets out of control, Pojo can do something that's normally not in his colors to just go ahead and clean this board back up.
True enough. Harsh Rule's good in Stone Scar decks, too.
Yeah, turns out that Harsh Rule's good in pretty much any deck when you're behind.
Ooh, a very good Obliterate from Loco Pojo here. So that's going to push Ireed down to 3. And he stole Ireed's Harsh Rule.
Yeah, it actually will not push him to 3. It would have gone to 4, but we are going to see the silence come out, which was he had to get that silence out there. Ireed recognizing that he needs to stop himself from losing now, and he knows Pojo is only holding that Harsh Rule that it was taken from.
Yeah, the Argenport Instigator was silenced, of course, and doesn't deal a point of damage.
Yes, so we are seeing Pojo trying to push both through. I wonder if he's going to fire off the rule here. You have to keep it, I would figure. Maybe now he will fire it off.
Yeah, I think that Combat Healer definitely induces the Harsh Rule.
Yeah, I feel like you have to Harsh Rule, but Harsh Ruling is it's a scary proposition for Pojo because we've talked about it so many times. The big Combri deck has so many units, it can just whip off the top of its deck and drop them into play and just have those units carry the whole game for you.
So I'm not as frightened of that in this case because I Read Mind's best unit in this situation, Mystic Ascendant, will not do anything right away since you know that I Read Minds can't drop it with a power in the same turn since he has no cards in hand right now.
This is true, but I actually don't think Mystic Ascendant's his best pickup here. I think if he grabs Titan, he could easily just run over Pojo with this game. And Pojo looking for his 11th power to close this out with a Flame Blast. That's how he's looking
Healer
at this game.
Put I Read Minds just out of range of that Flame Blast.
Yeah, it really did, though. It was actually the 2 Combri healers back-to-back, I believe. And we're going to see Pojo put on the clock here. Pojo has to hit a power here or fire off this Flame Blast and not die. and he
Ooh,
does pick it up, but he can't use it. Oh, this is terrible. So he's gonna have to Seed of Chaos, drop the Flame Blast onto. Oh, I
he chooses to just concede rather than keep going in this game.
I very strongly disagree with that play. Unfortunately, like I think that's a huge misplay from Pojo. I mean, you are playing to very minimal outs, but like clearly that Flame Blast was right there. You could have just Flame Blasted the Titan, removed it, and given yourself one more draw step to hit a Flame Blast because the next Flame Blast would have been at 11 since the power wouldn't have been depleted that turn.
Yeah. Also, any unit buys you another draw step. Something like an Umbran Reaper can trade with the Marshal and get you closer to that lethal burn. Yeah, I very much think that Pojo had a chance, a small chance, but a chance that he didn't even try to go for.
Yeah, he had a very real chance to at least try and get himself back into that game. So that's really unfortunate, but
He
it is what it is. Pojo made his decision. I think he's comfortable enough with his deck that he's not too worried about the one game loss.
Yeah, I think he was probably just a little frustrated. He prayed to the eternal gods to give him a power that turn, and they did. But he wasn't specific enough in his wish and got a depleted power.
Yeah, he wasn't quite specific enough, unfortunately. Maybe if he had made a better sacrifice, but the RNG gods were not quite happy with enough to give him one. They did the best that they could, but it wasn't good enough this time.
Yeah, so these guys are moving into sideboard now, and I imagine this won't take long as they are playing what their 11th game of this tournament. They're well familiar with each other's decks by now.
Yeah, we had the first series go 4 games, and the other series go 4 games. So this is the ninth game. The ninth game that they played against each other just today. So they are very well familiarized with what they want for their sideboard plan at this point. Maybe a minor tweak here or there, but other than that, I think Pojo is just resetting up his sideboard because for some reason I think he doesn't save them all the time. So he's just getting that tuned up, and then we will be jumping back into game 2 of the true finals of the grand finals.
All right, so here we go. Loco Pojo down 1-0 in the final best of fives match of this tournament.
Yep, this will be it. So let's see if he can actually come back from down 1 game. It's pretty easy for him to do, but he will have to make at least a 3-0 or 3-1 run. So early game, Pojo lots of suffocates. So interestingly enough,
Combrate Healer will pose no problem for him this game.
yeah, exactly. Interestingly enough, those suffocates do become a lot better for Pojo. I'm pretty sure after board with the healers coming in and not a lot of the little units being removed. And like I was just saying, we already see 3 Combri healers picked up for iRead Minds, all of which I have a feeling will meet their end with one of these suffocates that Pojo is holding.
Yeah, iRead Minds actually plays Combrate Healers in his main deck. He played a couple of them last game. It was one of the Shimmering Combrate decks that had them in the sideboard.
Oh yes, you're correct. I don't. Yeah, of course. Like it wouldn't make as much sense in his version anyway to play them in the side. So do you see them there? And they are going to not actually come down. Interesting. I read mine's wanting to pass here so that he can keep Desert Marshal up for the 5-drop.
Yep, Desert Marshal trade his 2 little units. Loco Pojo without the torch to break this up. But now iRead Minds is without a silence for this Umbran Reaper.
This is true, though he does have the Sandstorm Titan to bring it down to the ground. So the 5-1 on the ground, not nearly as nice. And Pojo picking up a Charchain Flail, but unfortunately having to go seek power, so it can only come in as a 5-1 this turn.
Yeah, next turn he'll be able to Charchain down that. Oh, but he won't. Combrate Healer boosting the Titan up to 5/9.
Yeah, and I think this is reminiscent of one of the games we saw with iRead Minds earlier against Pojo in the very first series they played in Winners Finals, where iRead Minds buffed one of these Sandstorm Titans up to like a 5/16, was it, at the end?
5/12 or 5/15 for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was
So Pojo ends up
absolutely
super
huge.
running the Umbran Reaper and the Charchain Flail for the Sandstorm Titan.
And that's That unfortunately makes his hand very, very light on action. I read mine's not having the same problem at all over here. He's got Great Parliament, Martial Ironthorn, even picking up a Mystic Ascendant now.
Yeah, all the removal in the world isn't going to stop a big Combre deck. You could have a deck of 25 power and 50 death strikes, and you'd still lose to big Combre.
Yeah, you really could, and we're gonna see this Annihilate get fired off to try and do a little bit of damage control for Pojo. But with him just picking a power up off the top, this is I read mine's game to take over.
Yeah, and Pojo just picking up another power here. What draws does he even have to get back in this game?
I stash. That's basically what he's playing for at this point. Like he really needs a stash. And even then, I'm not sure that's going to do enough here. Like I read Minds has been missing power a bunch too, but he's at least got the clock in play, and these Mystic Ascendants and the Seraphs. Maybe there's a way that like Pojo subverts the harsh rule while I read Minds overcommits his board and gets wrecked on that, and that's how he wins. But that's pretty far off.
That would be quite the highlight.
Yeah, that would be quite the highlight indeed. We see Pojo picking up a Maul here, going to keep him in play a little bit longer. Going to go ahead and try and get the Iron Thorn off, but unfortunately, there will be a Scorpion Wasp in his way.
So that's going to reduce Pojo down to 4 here. I read mine's Iron Thorn, Mystic Ascendant, draw 2 cards, give it +4/+4. Yeah, this is. I don't even know that the Subvert for Harsh Rule would win Local Pojo the game at this point.
If he subverts right now, hits Harsh Rule, then both players are holding a Vanquish and a Torture piece, and I think it's possible for him to get back in. But unfortunately for Pojo, it isn't in the cards. He finds an Instigator on the top instead of a Subvert. So getting beaten down very quickly in that second game, and actually going down 0-2 in this reset best of best of 5 grand final.
Yeah, Pojo's back against the wall. We'll see if he can pull a Sir Rhino here and come back.
Yeah, and this is gonna be an extra Rhino because he's gonna have to get 3 games instead of just 2 in a row. This is gonna take an incredible amount of skill and luck here to be able to run through I read minds like that. And considering I read minds was just in that game especially seemed to handle him very easily. Pojo's definitely going to have to run off a bunch of game wins. We did see this in the first set though. Like Pojo did win the series 3-1, so he's more than capable of actually bringing home that championship. But it is going to take him a little bit of effort.
Yeah, so we can see Pojo adjusting his sideboard here. He wants to bring in more obliterates, and he's cutting some Almond Reapers. I actually like cutting torches. The big combo deck doesn't have any meaningful units that die to torch besides Valkyrie Enforcer, and you have plenty of cards such as Suffocate that can hit the Valkyrie Enforcer.
Yeah, I think I might be in agreement here, which is interesting to say. There's not a lot of times you cut torch from your decks, but against Big Combri, you're very correct. Like there really aren't a lot of threats, and outside of the Valkyrie Enforcer, every threat you can kill with torch feels really bad to kill with torch.
Yeah, Temple Scribe.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, your 1/1 is scaring me. Let me use my very useful torch.
All right, so Pojo's hand is not looking the greatest, and I Read Minds has a couple silences and a protect.
Yeah, and I read Minds' only roadblock here was going to be power, and since he ripped power off the top, he's going to have a very strong start here. He'll be able to put Seraph or the Combri Healer into play this turn. He would actually be rewarded for playing the Combri Healer and is going to get punished a little bit since he decides to play Seraph first, since Pojo does have the Suffocate.
Yeah, and so Pojo has picked up a couple of bigger burn spells, a Flame Bust and Obliterate, since I said that. So his hand is actually looking pretty solid now. It looks like he's going to be able to threaten I Read Minds, if not kill him outright, just with burn spells.
Yeah, very true. And I read Minds now in a bit of an interesting situation where he got the 3rd power, but he hasn't found the 4th one. Kind of needs that. He would really like to get this Great Parliament into play and try and put the Owl down. And we're going to see what Pojo wants to do here. And he does elect, unfortunately, to go ahead and try and push this Soulfire Drake through. And for not the first time in this series and in this tournament, we're going to see this Soulfire Drake get punished by this Desert Marshal very heavily.
Yeah, so that's like normally a really huge tempo swing, trading your 5 cost card for a 2 cost card. But when your opponent is power screwed, like if there's a saving grace, it's that at least that took up Irie Mine's whole turn too.
Yeah, very true. And interestingly enough, we see Pojo getting in here with the Stone Scar Maul. And if I Read Minds had not had the Scorpion Wasp, he or another ambush, he would have actually kept that Maul in play and gotten another swing off with it.
Yeah, very crucial to have another ambush unit there from Irie Mines. But Loco Pojo, he's keeping up with this now. He's got a Charchain Flail to take out one of these units, and then Obliterate and Flame Blast still.
Yeah, he is keeping up, although he is sacrificing health, and I kind of feel like that's the problem, is that Pojo needs to do a little bit more than keep up here. When he has to, when he's constantly forced to throw away all these burn spells he was planning on winning the game with at his opponent's units, he needs to be picking up extra gas all the time to make sure that he can keep going.
So Subvert is great when your opponent's missing power drops, but unfortunately for Pojo, Irie Mines has the Protect to counter it.
Yeah, we see that Protect come out, holding off the Subvert, much to Pojo's disappointment. And all of a sudden, now that he has 5, I Read Minds is going to get this Martial Ironthorn into play next turn, and Pojo's going to have to aim all this burn at these units just to make sure that he doesn't lose.
Yeah, you really need a recurring damage source, a unit-based threat, in order to win with these burn decks.
Yeah, and we do see 2 Flame Blasts get picked up, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. We could see over a 2, if we see power next turn, it could be just a 2-turn turnaround for I Read Minds. Or Pojo, rather. He could just go Flame Blast into Flame Blast, and he's lacking that Protect now.
Yeah, that has to be the most tilting way possible to lose. You're chipping away at your opponent with a Combre Healer, you're countering all their stuff, and then you just get Flame Blasted for 10 twice.
Yeah, very true, though. I think that time has unfortunately passed now for Pojo since he didn't hit it there. Like, he's staring down lethal this turn. One of these Flame Blasts is going to have to get committed at a unit, and it's going to be Seraph, I'd imagine. And then you're going to have to hit something big here because he's going to go to 1.
Yeah, he's going to get knocked to 1, and then Irie Mines is going to play an Iron Thorn. So Pojo's going to have to draw a removal spell. No, he needs to draw. I don't even know what he can draw. I don't know if there was an answer.
There was exactly one answer. No, I really think you're right. There just wasn't anything there. I Read Minds with the Vanquish. Gonna go ahead and pick this up. So after a disappointing first series where he went down 3-1, we do see I Read Minds come back very strong, picking up the 3-0 over Loco Pojo in our grand finals.
Yeah, and congratulations to our Season 2 ETS Invitational champion, I Read Minds.
Yeah, big congratulations to him. He played excellent today, had a very good run, got all the way here, and was able to take over. And even though he went down in the first set 3-1, he did not get tilted. He was able to steady himself, come back, and show off in a very impressive win 3-0 over Loco Pojo.
Yeah, that was a great end to a great tournament. A lot of amazing games from a lot of amazing players, a lot of cool plays, a lot of great decisions. Just really a pleasure to cast today with you, Beatrice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you as well, Ace. This was a fantastic tournament. I was so glad I got to be a part of it. We got to see so many great things over the last 2 days. Like this has just been one of the best tournaments I've ever been a part of casting. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and so with that, I think we're going to hand it off to our tournament organizer and all-around nice guy, Rec Henner, for the closing remarks.
Yep, I think that is what we are going to.
Thanks, Ace. Thanks, Beatrice. And hey, thanks to everyone watching, and thanks to all of our players. And congratulations to I Read Minds for the win in the Season 2 Invitational. I want to point out that his first Eternal Tournament was actually the December 17th weekly event, so relatively new blood, especially compared to the rest of our top 8, which had 5 returning Invitationalists. But also, congratulations to Loco Pojo for taking second, Sir Rhino for third, and really, everyone that showed up on day 2 did a fantastic job. Had a great tournament run. But I would like to emphasize that, even though everyone here is a great player, I Read Minds really had a who's who run through the winner's bracket. His first match was against Vomi. His second match was against Sir Rhino, our third place player. Then 2-1 over Conf Croat, the second place player from the November Invitational, and also in the top 8. Then another 2-1 over Tautua1, the November Invitational winner, and also in top 8. Finally, the winner's bracket against Pojo, which we saw he won 3-1. Pojo then ran it back. Did manage to take a series off of Reed. So he did not manage to win the perfect run through the winner's bracket, but he still then took a 3-0 over Pojo in the reset bracket. An absolutely incredible run from aReNGee. He lost a grand total over the entire event of 4 games. Not 4 series, 4 games. Big Ombre is a hell of a deck, apparently, especially with the new promo, Find the Way. But yeah, this tournament was a blast to run. I hope it was great for everyone watching. It was certainly the best event we've put on so far. I'm very happy with everything that our casters have done, that our production staff, Miller Tool, has done. Another shout out to X Kirby, who provided our fancy new graphic background. And hey, thanks to everyone at ETS. aReNGee could not be here to cast with us today, but he was helping in the background, reading chat, passing on suggestions, publicizing us on Twitter, etc., etc. He's doing great. But I'd like to, and once again, I'd like to thank all the players and the audience. Next week we will have the Pillars of Amar team tournament. It's a unified deck building tournament, which means that a team of 3 can only use each card 4 times over all 3 decks in sideboard. We already have a handful of teams registered, but registration does not close until Thursday. So if you can put together a team of 3, come out and have some fun. It is not a ETS event to give invitational or series points, however, but we'll still have some prizes. And after that, on February 11th, will be the first weekly of Season 3. Everyone that had fun watching the event, well, hey, come out and maybe you can be in our next invitational. The rules section of aReNGee Eternal is going to be getting a bit of an overhaul between now and then. But registration for the event should be open on the Monday before the 11th, which is the 6th. And that will be a Swiss tournament open to anyone that will cut to a single elimination top 8. The top 2 players earn a spot in our next invitational, and for every series you win, you get a series point. That is how we fill in the rest of our bracket for the event. And so, once again, thanks everyone for coming out, and have a great rest of your day.